a punt. That's not my style, man. That ain't no fun.
Let's talk football. Let's talk football. Let's talk football.
With Coach Val. Said, hut. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Let's Talk Football with Coach Val. I'm your host, Gil Valtierra, the voice of Calaveras football. I'd like to welcome into the studio my very special guest, head varsity football coach at Sonora High School, Coach Kirk Clifton. Coach, welcome. Thanks for coming over.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I bet you're not used to that such a big applause over in Calaveras County so much. You're used to that over in Tuolumne.
Well, yeah, this year we had some pretty loud applauses, that's for sure.
That's for sure. Speaking of that, Coach, big congratulations in order. A fantastic season this past season. For those of you out there that know, at Sonora High School, they were the 2024 Division VI Sac-Joaquin Section Champions and the 2024 Division 4AF CIF State Champions. Give it up for that. It don't get much better than that, Coach.
No, it doesn't. I got to be honest with you. We were a very young football team. We started 3 seniors, and one of them was a 2-way starter. Everybody else was played one way, and the rest were juniors and sophomores. So, we had some mistakes early on for sure, but overall, we minimized those towards the end of the year and started playing our best football.
So more to come from that group.
I everybody says that and asks that. What are you going to do? And I said, well, I should probably retire. However, the kids, they suck you back in every year. But, there's a lot of luck playing 15 high school football games.
Yeah.
I think we have 812 kids in the school. We had 48 kids on the roster throughout the playoffs. And, through the year, we lost one reserve defensive lineman for the year. We had a couple starters up front that lost for 2 or 3 games, and then they came back and, they taped it up and finished the year strong. So we didn't have any catastrophic injuries.
Yeah, I mean, from my experience, you've been doing it a long time too. I mean, you're absolutely right. A lot has to go right. A lot has to go right.
No question.
Coach, why don't you fill our listeners in on your background? Tell us where you went to school. Where did you grow up? Did you play football? Tell us about all that. Let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah. So I grew up in Sonora, California. I went to Sonora High School with, my mom and dad went to high school there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Dale Clifton, or old school, whatever everybody calls them now. They both went to Sonora High School, and my dad was an athlete. And then all 4 of us kids, we all were athletes at Sonora High School, and, played football, basketball, and ran track all 4 years. Went on to junior college and played at Modesto, then went down to Cal Poly and had my second ACL surgery and cut my career short.
Ouch.
And so I just, finished school, and I've been involved with football ever since in 6th grade when I started coaching football or playing football, Pop Warner.
Okay. And then your immediate family. Tell us about your wife, your kids.
Yeah, married. We've been married, let's see, it'll be 25 years this July. We have 4 kids, 3 boys and a girl. All 4 went to Sonora High School. All 3 boys played multiple sports. I coached them all in football. And my oldest lives in Fairfield. Has 2 sons. So I have a grandpa. I have 2 grandsons. And my daughter lives in Oakdale.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I have a granddaughter. My daughter and son-in-law live in Oakdale. And then Carson, he's coaching with us this year, and he's coached with us in the past, and he's going to continue coaching with us, and he coaches our special teams and our outside linebackers and our slots on offense. And then my youngest is currently going to Modesto Junior College and playing football.
Very nice. Very nice. So already got one of the sons grabbing a whistle and following that Clifton family tradition of when you're done playing, you get out there and you start coaching.
Yeah, he enjoys it, and he puts a lot of time in the off season too with the kids in the weight room. And we opened the weight room the Monday after we won the state game. So we have 6:45 in the morning. We have 3:45 in the afternoon for the kids that can't come in the morning, and we have 6 period, and we do that 4 days a week. And then Wednesdays we speed train them.
So the Monday morning, 6:45 in the morning, after you won the state game, weight room was open. Guys were back in there.
Yes.
Gotta love that.
Absolutely.
You gotta love that.
We've always opened it up after our the previous years, the very next Monday after our loss, we would open it up and, get moving on it. There were some kids, a lot of our kids were wrestlers or they're playing basketball. And so they took about a week off before they started getting into basketball and wrestling. And, we kind of gave it to them. And then we were in Christmas break.
Right.
And then when school started, we started right back up and we have really good turnout right now.
So now the Calaveras faithful out there are listening and they hear old school, they hear Coach Clifton as a Calaveras coach. Tell us how how all that got started, and did you coach because he coached, or how did all that get going?
As you well know, you coach for many different reasons, and like I said earlier, the kids suck you back in. And it's not necessarily the kids that are the star players or whatever. It's every single one of them. Mm-hmm. And it might be the last kid on the team that you impact his life somehow, some way that he remembers, and he'll come back and thank you for it later on. But yeah, so as soon as I was done playing, I just loved the game, and I think it's the greatest team sport, it's the ultimate team sport out there for sure.
Agreed.
If people say football is life, it is, because everybody gets beat up, everybody gets tackled, everybody gets knocked down. It's whether you can get back up and, try and perform again and again and again and again. So you have to be both mentally tough and physically tough, just like in life, because life is not easy.
No, it's not. It's not. That's great. So you had some examples of that from your parents as far as, being involved in coaching, and played yourself. And then after that started coaching. Now, I remember from when I was coaching, you were always there, on the other sideline when we coached against each other. And last year was your first year taking over as head coach. How long did you coach with Sonora as an assistant prior to becoming head coach?
Let's see. Well, I started coaching when I moved back at Calaveras when Roger took over, Roger Canepa. Mm-hmm. And then my dad was offensive coordinator. I think that was 98. And our first group, let's see, Chris Wilson was our quarterback. Chris Salinardo, probably one of my favorite players of all time in Calaveras. The little guy, he was tougher than snot, man. He was really good. And, other kids like that. And we stayed on for, then when my dad had retired a couple years prior. And then when Roger left, and it was perfect timing because my oldest son was playing varsity football at Sonora, and Coach Craig, our old head coach, took over and asked if I was interested in helping out at Sonora. And so I made the change, and yeah.
So that was about 2000 or 01?
Let's see. I think it was 09, something like that. Maybe 2010, something like that.
So you put in, 10, 12 years as an assistant before you took on head coach. And then you get head coach and you go and take it all and win it all first year. So you just can retire, walk off into the sunset, right? I'm all done now.
Yeah, there's part of me that thinks that I probably should do that, but the competitive side in me is no, I don't really want to do that. Yeah. I think we have a pretty bright future in Sonora right now. Our JV team was 8-2, and we had their 3 best players on our play for us that year. So it was we have a pretty good thing going. We have a pretty decent freshman class, and actually a pretty good freshman class. So,
well, I'm being facetious, of course, about walking off into the sunset, but you've been doing it long enough to recognize how difficult it is to get to accomplish what you've been done. I was fortunate enough to be in the section title game back in 2010 with our guys. And what happened to there, that crazy game right at the end, we had it right in our graphs, and then let it get away. So just so many little things can happen. And it's just man, it was really good to see you, in that first season and do what you did. So I'm really happy for you. And especially knowing how difficult it is.
Yeah, no, thanks. It is. It's hard. It's a grind. And, everybody wants to be a coach, but I don't think they really understand what it takes. It's not just Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's the preparation on Saturday. It's the 6-hour meetings on Sunday. Mm-hmm. So if you don't get along with your staff and I always tell people, you have to have thick skin to coach on our staff at Sonora because we're with each other so much. We tease each other relentlessly.
Right.
Like it's brutal sometimes, but it's, it's like you're being 15, 16-year-old kids again. So but the camaraderie of the staff, and then, there were definitely changes that we didn't really change schematically. A little bit defensively, we just practiced differently, and me being the head coach, I realized that it rolls uphill, it doesn't roll downhill, and so I really, once we kind of got in the groove of the coaching staff, I said, "This is what I expect. This is what I want," and just because I ask you, and if you don't know, I'm going to not be happy. So I have my hands in every aspect of the game.
Right.
And, I definitely made some mistakes, but, I think I'll learn from those too. So,
yeah, of course. I mean, that's just the way it goes. And as a head coach, you have to have your hand in it, because if you don't, you're going to have to answer to it somehow anyway. So.
Exactly. Yeah. If somebody call a fake punt, I'd be like, what in the heck are we doing?
Right.
Yeah. We don't have a fake punt. We'll just go for it on offense.
You're probably better probability of success anyways. Right. But, well, Coach, I mentioned, the level of difficulty to have the kind of special season that your team had, specifically for you and your family with the passing of Craig, your brother. I can't even imagine the emotional roller coaster that you were going through with your family, having to go through that ordeal, simultaneously having to lead young men and lead your community and lead your team in the midst of a season like this. Tell us all how you mitigated that and kind of, what drove you, how'd you get through that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'll go back to when Craig first got diagnosed. That very first season, he started, I think, 10 games in, and then, had to take the rest of that season off to get started on all the treatment and everything. And they were playing a game at Sonora, and Jamie and my dad were coaching the team, and I was sitting with him behind, bench, like one row or whatever. And he's like, we got to call timeout. So he leaned forward and said, call timeout. And so he talked to him, and he sat back down, and at that point in time, he was not supposed to get high strung or anything like that, which was impossible as a coach, but, and he sat down, he looks at me and he goes, man, I have two diseases. I have cancer and I have coaching. And, it's somewhat true.
Right.
But I really, the biggest thing that you can do as a coach is impact a young man's life. Because, a lot of the kids that we coached over the years have died, have had kids, successful careers, gone down the wrong path, and hopefully turned back, So there's all different things, reasons why you want to coach, and you want to be able to impact them somehow.
Right.
And there was one practice, oh boy, I think it was Escalon week, and we went down there and beat them up pretty good, which is the first time Sonora High's ever won at Inglefield, even when we were in the old TVL. With
Escalon's tough there, especially at home.
Yeah. And, we played pretty well and beat him up pretty good. And I want to say the next week, he had, really taken a turn. We kind of figured out what, was going to happen, and it did happen. And our athletic director, and he's also my O-line, D-line coach, Josh Cruzy, and he's like, I'm going to have to do this, and I don't know how I'm going to be able to do it. And I reflected back, like, Craig never missed a practice, didn't miss a game from the time that first year that he took off, and he made it through the entire time. And so I had a responsibility not only to the kids, but to the other coaches, to try to continue to lead as best I could. And I was very honest with them. Most of them kind of knew what was going on, but I told them through the entire way. And after the Oristema game, we played really well. And I just kind of had a moment in pregame, where I started to get tears in my eyes and well up. And then he's like, all of a sudden, just bam, like, hey, you got a responsibility here.
Right.
So at that point in time, I kind of realized, got home after the game and was trying to go to sleep. My wife's like, why don't you go down on the couch and watch the game again? Because I was tossing and turning and she wasn't sleeping. So I went on the couch, and started watching the game again. And at that point in time, I realized that, because we have kids on our team that need football more than we need them.
Yeah,
They need the structure. They need to be a part of something.
absolutely.
And at that point in time, I realized that I needed them more than they needed me.
Yeah,
And so that really helped me and my side of the family, my wife and kids. And because I felt like I was blessed that it happened during that time. Not that I was blessed that it happened, but that it happened during that time for me, because I had, somewhat of a distraction. And
almost like another support system.
yes, 100%. And then we went down to Houston, lost a heartbreaker. That was, and
Was that 52, 51 or something?
51. Yeah. We drove the length of we went 74 yards in 2 minutes, scored with 6 seconds left, went for 2 and didn't get it.
Oh my God.
But his service was that Sunday. And so the next day we crammed our preparation into Ripon, and, we were prepared and we did everything, and then, had the service, and we went in the next week, and I had this thought. I'm like, I saw the kids after the game. They were tired. I mean, they played hard. I mean, they left everything out there.
It's a rough game.
Yeah. And, they were crushed and this and that. Well, and I was like, we're going to take it easy on Monday, which was the biggest mistake I ever made. And then we kind of took it easy on Tuesday, and then we kind of ramped up on Wednesday. Well, their preparation wasn't great. And we were making mistakes on Wednesdays, which we normally don't do. And before we went out to the game, we're walking out, and we were screwing up our counts. Kids weren't coming out. They were forgetting what they were doing on special teams, and
Just kind of lethargic.
totally. They were joking around pregame, and we're walking out, and I'm like, man, guys, we're ripe for the picking. So, we got out there, and the worst thing happened. We kick off. They go 3 and out. They were like -3 yards or whatever. They punt. We score in 2 plays. And after that, we completely stopped playing. Just completely. And we couldn't turn that switch back on. So we had 2 losses in a row. And so went back to what I feel is best. And so we used every minute of practice that week in meetings and film, and just in practice on the field. And we got back on track, and then, played a pretty good game against Ripon Christian. I think it was 42-21. And it wasn't that close. They scored late, and we took a knee on the 1-yard line going in. And so then we went into playoffs, and we really started performing better defensively, and got smarter, better educated. And we were not turning the ball over. So,
right. So during the season, I do the weekly broadcast every Friday to coincide with the games. And we always report the scores, your guys' score, the league score, all that, surrounding area scores and everything, and who they're playing that night. And I know when I got to the Houston one, it was like, well, I mean, that's a close game. Houston is known, hey, they were pretty good. They were undefeated.
The quarterback's already enrolled at UCLA.
Right.
The tight end's going to Air Force, and the other receiver's going to Washington State. So
we knew that was going to be a tough.
Yeah,
we knew that was going to be a tough game. The Ripon score, however, did sit me back and go, whoa, what just happened there?
Yeah.
So it's great to get a little bit of the backstory there about the prep and everything that was going on. In retrospect, do you kind of, given the circumstances and then given how you guys performed and won it all at the end, does it make it like that much more special?
Well, after the Houston game, I told the kids, this loss is on me. We gave up 52 points, and it wasn't a schematic thing. I mean, the kid was unbelievable that night. I mean, the quarterback and their receivers, and they had a kid get eligible that it was a transfer that we didn't know about, that turned out to have 5 catches for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. Wow. So now all of a sudden they're an empty a lot, and their like I said, the quarterback's going to UCLA, and Penn State was there watching the game that night because they were playing USC that Saturday. And so it was a great game. It was electric stadium. And, but I told the kids after the game, I'll take the loss because we didn't execute the 2-point play. We didn't practice it enough, and that was 100% my fault. I had 2 plays in mind, and I stuck with my original gut feeling, and we just didn't execute it to perfection, and that was totally my error. But after the Ripon game, I told them, I said, this is on you guys.
Right.
We cannot play this game for you. And, we were standing around on defense. I mean, it was embarrassing, really. And we deserved to lose. And they owned up to it, and which is what you really want as a coach. You can't blame anybody else.
Yeah. And it might have been the best thing for them. I mean, given the circumstances, because then what happened after that is they realized, and I mean, I preached it for years as a coach, is there's no such thing as the light switch. You can't just turn it on and control it when you want.
This is not the NFL.
Yeah, you practice how you play, man. It's like if it's bad, it's going to be bad.
Yeah, and in the new league, you can't take anybody lightly. Our entire league made the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty insane. In our schedule, 8 of the 10 teams we played were in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We beat the Oakdale, the Division III section runner-up, and we lost by 1 to Houston, the D5 section champion. So it wasn't like we had a weak schedule, and that was a concern of mine going into the league. Where there was no weeks off,
right?
And it's hard for 16, 17-year-old kids to be mentally focused every week. And
it's a good point,
and it was a good lesson for them to learn. I think. Yeah,
I mean that's a tough league. When I saw the realignment and was taking a look at all of it, it was like, oh boy. Unlike the new Mother Lode, where you had Somerville, Linden, Calaveras, and then Big Valley, and then the rest.
Right.
Which is, and I even told the head coach at Big Valley, I think Coach Lima said, I dubbed him the best of the rest.
Right.
And then you had your top 3 and then the best of the rest.
Right.
Where in the TVL, it's like there's no such thing as that. Every single one of them can win it all. It just all depends on what happens week to week.
Yep. Yeah. So, and it's fun. It's great, and I think that's where we belong. And I believe playing in that league helped us make the run we did.
Right. Yeah, definitely. You guys, iron sharpens iron, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Coach, let's pivot a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about your offense, that triple option offense. I've always
love it.
Yeah, right. No, I'm not a big fan of option type offense, but I've always been intrigued because as a defensive coordinator, it's a big pain in the ass to try to defend, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, tell us a little bit about the history of the triple option at Sonora High. When did Sonora start running it? Where did they get it from? And what's kept you going? Yeah, we're gonna keep with this thing. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, good question. The Coach Sindro, the coach before Brian Craig, Sonora was in the Valley Oak League at that time, playing against schools with bigger dudes and faster athletes, and so he wanted to try and find an offense where they went from the fly to the triple option, and so they basically went to Navy, and they hung out with when Paul Johnson was head coach, and Ken Niumatalalo or whatever his name is, the San Jose State guy.
He's San Jose State now, right? Yeah,
yep. Okay. He was the offensive coordinator, and then the original offensive line coach was there, and Coach Cruzu spent time with them and in the classroom with them, and he said basically, the first year he coached with a book and all of his notes on there because it was so new to everybody. And through the years it's morphed, and
sure.
And when I got there, coming from a fly background, and then I had to learn, and I was a receivers coach and defensive backs coach the first year, and the second year I was in charge of offense. And I'll never forget my dad telling me, he goes, "You'll never be successful calling the offense until you know what absolutely everybody does on every single play." So
it's good advice.
Yeah, it was great advice, and I took that to heart, and I spent a lot of time with Josh, and our superintendent now, Ed Pelfrey, was helping coach at that time. And I learned a lot, and we've always kind of evolved the offense. And, we run midline, we run inside veer, we run outside veer, and our rocket toss and all the counter plays off of that. And we don't throw the ball much. But when we do, it's usually pretty effective down the field. We won the state game. We were 3 for 3 for 167 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Good efficiency.
Yeah, great, right? But every time, like I tell everybody, every time we pitch the ball, that's a pass. Yeah. But it's a live ball.
Right.
If you throw the ball down the field and it's incomplete, it's not a big deal, right? Clock stops, whatever. If we pitch it and drop it or whatever, it's a live ball.
Right.
So who's got bigger stones?
Right.
You know what I mean?
So for our layman listeners out there going, what are you talking about? Triple option. What's all this football lingo mean? Let's break it down for you real quick. So the quarterback's under center. He's got a fullback right behind him. When he opens up, he has the option to give to that fullback, kind of like right up the gut, the dive play. That's his first option. His second option is he could pull it from that fullback and keep it himself and take off running. And then his third option is there's a like a wing back that's coming from the opposite side that stays in pitch relationship, so that at any moment when that quarterback looks like he's running, he can turn around and pitch that ball back, giving him his third option on each play. Yeah. So just wanted, for those out there listening, what do you mean triple option?
Right.
One of the reasons why, and it's a very effective offense, especially obviously the way you guys run it. When I was in high school, we played at Washington High School in the Bay Area in Fremont. Bill Walsh used to coach there before he went to the Stanford and the Niners. They ran, Coach Ingram at the time was the coach there. They ran Wishbone with some kind of similar option type offense. So I've seen, been around a lot. And I just always felt like the probability for turnovers, and you probably know as well as I do, when turnovers are the biggest, quickest thing to change the momentum of a football game so quick. And so why would I want to run something that I'm increasing my chances of having turnovers and have that happen to me in a game? So that's always kept me from it. But then I watch you guys run your offense and going, they don't turn the ball over very much. So what's happening with how you guys are coaching it up that's mitigating that aspect?
Our practice plan, so when I took over, we used to do longer periods of individual, so we'd I maybe have a 10 or 15 minute individual period on offense, and then we'd go to group, and then we go to 7-on-7, and then we're in team. And I'm a big believer in 10-minute periods only. And so we're constantly going, and it keeps the kids moving, and it keeps them active, and the practice goes a lot faster.
It's kind of focused, right?
Yeah, you don't have a lot of time you have to coach on the fly and correct them on the fly. And so we run our mesh. We call it mesh. We do it every single day. We even do it on game day in pregame. We start with the quarterbacks and fullbacks, and then we add in the pitch to it. And our first 4 periods of offense are all individual periods. And then we do like on Mondays we'll start with one of our plays, and we'll do 10-minute period of that, with 2 scout defenses going, one an odd front, one an even front. And we mix those fronts up, and we run the same play back to back. Okay. So we're getting 20 plays in 10-minute period.
So you're spending more time on the fundamental aspect of it. And does that take away from your team time when you're all together running the full on everybody, or is it the same amount of time?
No, we do team, and that's our longest period is 15 minutes, because then we throw in our pass plays.
Okay.
When we do team as well.
So you go 15 minutes team, done. Yeah.
So we'll do 10, 40 minutes of individual periods, 15 of 7-on-7, which we do with the JVs. And so we have 3 or 4 huddles going at a time, rapid plays. So we see multiple plays, and we get more time than the JV does. Because the banners in the gym are not for JV championships, in case anybody knows. They're for varsity championships.
Just double check in case anybody was looking at that.
And but they get better too, because they're going against varsity. And so that was a change we made program wide this year, which was great. And they learned to really love it too, because they could see their kids getting better. And so we're all coaching together, and that gives me an opportunity to keep an eye on the younger guys too, and make sure they're doing the same stuff the way we're teaching it.
Right. I mean, in another year or two, they're going to be your guys, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I don't script anything on offense to give it to the fullback. That's the easiest part of our offense, is to be able to give it. So we practice keeps and pitches all the time.
Gotcha.
Because the easiest part is to give it to the fullback.
Right. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you break down each of the options, kind of run individual time, a little more individual times, so working on the fundamental stuff. You've probably heard, if you heard of some other episodes, I've had Coach Clark in here, the Calaveras defensive coordinator, Coach Anderson. We've gone over
legendary.
Legendary.
You throw that term around loosely, but he's a legend, all right.
When you put in over 30 years,
yes,
that's you start to get the L button to go onto your coaching
I've got some
shirt.
Legendary coaching clinic stories with Coach Anderson.
I'm sure you do. Speaking of that, I think we're going to be adding to that list here coming up here because there's another one coming up.
Coming weekend or
That's
something next
right.
weekend,
Yeah. So, anyways, we talked about specific athletic types, body types, length, tallness, bigness, agility, footwork, speed, and where we like to see certain type of body types in certain positions. In the triple option offense, does that change a little bit from traditional offenses, or do you still want to see your fast guys at back and your big guys on line, or is there anything that's a little bit different where you're like, you don't necessarily have to be that in this type of offense,
right. A lot of people, they think we're really bigger than we really are, because I think our kids play pretty big, and we build from the inside out, center to guards to tackles on the offensive line. Quarterback, a good athlete, very, very intelligent. And our quarterback this year sometimes he's too smart,
Mm-hmm.
And then your best athletes everywhere. I mean, I think, speed kills, and it really does. And, but, I just think our offense, we try and play physical on defense too, which is hard against all the spread teams, and everybody's built
Right.
for spread and shotgun 5 wides and throwing the ball around and whatever.
Right.
Well, if you're building your defense around that, then you have to turn around and play us. It's very, very different. And so we try to deliver body blows on offense as well. And,
Gotcha.
And I think we do a pretty decent job of that.
Gotcha. So if you're going to have reps taken away from one side of the ball, then we're going to take advantage of it on the other side of the ball.
And, the longer we played, our practices shortened down because trying to keep them fresh. We still practice with high intensity, but we didn't practice. Mondays were 3 hours. That's just the way it is. It's install day. It's a heavy conditioning day for us.
Mm-hmm.
But Tuesdays were more like 2 hours, and Wednesdays were maybe an hour and 45, hour and a half, and Thursdays were done in 45.
Right.
Just because wanted to keep them as fresh as possible.
Sure. You're game ready.
By the time you're in your 10th or 11th game, you should know what we're doing anyways.
Right. You mentioned quarterbacks being smart. I think that's kind of given across the board.
Mm-hmm.
But your quarterbacks are like running backs, right? When they carry the football, they're not looking like Joe Montana, who wasn't exactly a very mobile quarterback, right? He's looking to get rid of the ball. Your quarterbacks seem like that's another extra running back on the field. They can throw, but also when he takes off and hits a hole, he's hitting it like a running back.
Yeah, it's 100%, and people are like, you're crazy running your quarterback like that. And I go, well, you got to have 2 of them. And we were blessed. We had 2 really good ones. The other kid played defensive back for us, and he's going to play both ways for us next year. But so that's why we try and practice fast and get multiple reps in so the backups can get reps as well.
Right. So that makes sense because they're gonna take their reps and get banged up a little bit, and so that makes sense. What do you do when you're like we're having a hard time finding number 2? You convert a guy?
Yeah, you convert somebody.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, because there are times. This year we were blessed. We're gonna be blessed next year. We're gonna have like 3 quarterbacks. And we have a really good, talented freshman kid that's gonna be really good. Like if we weren't so deep, I'd probably bring him up.
Right.
But. Yeah, you got to find somebody. You got to, it's no different than if you're running the fly or the wing tee or whatever. If your number 1 goes down, your number 2 is going to be lacking for a week or 2 until they get it, back in the groove.
Sure. Now, there was a lot of media around towards the end of the season when you guys had continued winning in the playoff games. When Somerville continued to do it, you being guys so close in proximity to each other, and then all of a sudden you're both winning. How did that to work out in the community over there, where you guys were just like, was it just like wow? For it all to happen in the same year was pretty special, right?
Yeah, it was really cool. And I talked to Sean a couple times, during they had to travel for the NorCal game. We were blessed to host, but I don't. You don't even know who you're playing in the NorCals until Sunday at 1:00. Well, so Saturday you take the day off to kind of chill and relax or, enjoy the moment. And then, you, after the second game, probably hydrate a little bit better. But, we found out we were playing on Sunday, and then you got to get a hold of film. And, so I called the Kerman coach and I was like, hey, don't hunt for film. If you want every game, I'll send it to you, man.
Right.
Because I'm, I think it's dumb.
Well, Coach Clark he would have spent the Saturday prognosticating on potentially who we're going to play.
Well, we thought we were going to maybe get Houston, a rematch with Houston.
Right.
That's kind of where the projections went. But, with Fresno County was in the north this year. Sometimes they're in the south or whatever. So it worked out. We really would have wanted that game.
Right.
But we didn't get it. So, and so I talked to the coach. We got the film, and then we broke it down, and we were there late. And then our defensive coordinator took some time off of Monday, and so did I. And then, but then after we won, we knew who we were playing, and but the logistics going into the state game and travel and finding out how, it's honestly, I felt like I didn't really coach until Wednesday, because there's so much you have to do.
Right.
And it's crazy. I'm not complaining. But it was really at the moment I was like, "The heck, man! I just want to coach a football
game." There's like a team breakfast. There's hold all these different things on the agenda.
Yeah, you got to find a place to practice, and and people ask me like, "How much does it cost?" I'm like, to do it right is about $30,000.
Right.
And I don't know how many people really have 30,000 sitting in their account in their football program.
Yeah.
So
probably not many.
Not many. And so Ricky Canepa from Canepa and Sons, I called him, and Roger had told me, he said it's probably between 25 and 30. And so Ricky got on the trail, and then our Youth Sports Foundation and our Sonora Air Foundation, and it was crazy. It just took off, and super blessed. With the amount of money and funds that people pitched in, it was crazy. And so we were able to, the kids had more than enough.
Yeah. I mean, it was great to see the community come together like that. But then they also have all of a sudden two teams in the same area in the same year are having a similar situation. Was unbelievable. Coach Leverus over at Somerville, I had him on the podcast, part of our Motherload League, the new Motherload League preview. And so he's a great guy.
Yep.
Was, really happy for him. Doing what they did. So yeah, it's kind of neat. Both teams in the same area.
It was, we stayed in the same hotel, and a lot of the kids knew each other and grew up together or whatever. But we tried to keep everything on a timeline, so they didn't have a ton of downtime.
Mm-hmm.
And it just where the kids were great, and we were on time, and the way they acted. The morning after, we had a breakfast at the hotel. Which was $4,000, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah. But the hotel manager came out right towards the end, and he's like, is Kirk Clifton here? And I'm like, oh, what happened? I'm like, what? And I go, that's me. And our principals, our AD, and, superintendent, and all these, our wives and everything, and our coaches. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened? He goes, I just want to tell you, he goes, we've been doing this for years. We've had colleges, we've had high schools, and he goes, no team has ever showed so much respect and been so pleasurable to be around than your kids. They're help busting the tables and all that stuff and helping the people. And I thought, we already won. No matter what happens in the game in 4 hours, we already won.
That's nice.
And so that was probably my proudest moment.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to hear because now you're getting that what you've been teaching all season besides the X's and O's is sinking in a little bit. So that's always a good thing.
If the CIF was smart, they would have played Sonora and Somerville at the same place. They would have played Somerville first, kick everybody out, because our fans would have been there, and then they'd repay to get back in. They'd have made so much more money. But I get how they got so many games going on. I understand. But they could have probably maneuvered something.
Well, I mean, you lost me if the CIF was smart right away. I was like,
yeah, I listened to your playoff thing about the whole. There's a good chance that playoffs are going to change this coming year.
Yeah, I would imagine so. They're
going to probably bring it back to 8 teams, but then the 9 through 12 they would either do like the 9th ranked team in our section would get matched up with somebody else in another section for like a 1 game regional silver bracket or something like that, or they would take 9 through 12 and they'd do a silver bracket championship. They play 2 games or something like that. So
as long as they don't go revert to some BCS where like they're going to determine who's going to go.
Well, I mean, going back to the computer thing, we were the 3rd ranked team and I get it. We lost to Ripon, but we fell behind. We were ahead of Bradshaw going into Houston. We were ahead of Woodland Christian, and then we lost to Houston, and Bradshaw skyrocketed above us.
Mm-hmm.
And then Woodland skyrocketed above us against Ripon. I'm looking like, well, who do they play?
Right.
And so it's all computer based.
And I think that has a place.
It does.
It does.
It does. 100%. But like, do I think Calaveras they were 9th, right?
8th.
8th. Yeah, because they had to go up.
The 8th. We went to.
Yeah, I was there scouting, but I forget, way up there. Wheatland.
Yeah.
And Calaveras should have hosted that game. They were better than Wheatland,
yeah.
which obviously they beat them, but it wasn't even close.
Right.
So, there's going to always be discrepancy. And then what do you do when you have a third place TVL team, but you have a first place Wheatland team? They're going to get in over the TVL team? I don't know about that one.
Right. But so that's why I say analytics and strength has a place. I think where I believe it's crossed its threshold of what it should be doing is when it's overcoming what happened on the field.
Yep, I agree.
And I think you should let the kids and what happened on the field be the primary force. And then after that, let analytics come in as a secondary or tertiary, but not where it takes over.
I agree with you 100%, but the computer was nice because I would print that out and I'd put it in our team room every week. And after we won the section, it's a media frenzy. There's people everywhere, cameras all in my face. And I was like, I just want to talk to my team. And the Max Preps guy was there. The Cal Preps guy was there. And I said, hey, guys, I go, you can tell, all due respect to Max Preps and Cal Preps, but they can take their computers and shove them up their ass. Sorry for swearing, but I know Coach Anderson swears all the time.
I get it. Coach Anderson does way worse than that.
I know.
I spend hours editing Coach Anderson's interviews every time. No, just kidding. Coach Anderson's great. Coach, I want to ask you another question because the whole time I was at Calaveras, you're at Sonora, and even when you guys weren't in the Motherlode League, we played each other a lot of times in preseasons. And then when you guys came into the Motherlode League, I mean, obviously dominated that league for 10 years. My question around that is, I think you guys came in right around 2014, completely dominated the league, only losing one game the entire 10-year period while you were there. But during that time, didn't win any championships. Didn't really go, state championships or anything like that, right?
We won the section in 2015.
Okay, so besides the 2015, you won the section.
And then we lost to Hanford in the NorCal game.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks for correcting me on that because I couldn't find some of that. So I was searching for some of that. My question around it, though, is now your first year as head coach and everything that happened this year and you go and win the whole darn thing. What do you see as maybe some of the differences between, because you had some great teams back then that didn't win it all, and then now this team didn't win it. What would you say is some significant differences between those teams and then this year that made the big difference?
2 years ago when we had Roger Alderman and Tyler Sells and Audie Peoples was our fullback, and we played Escalon in the section finals and lost by 1. And we made mistakes early in the game, and then we false started on one drive after we stopped them on the goal line that would have pretty much iced the game. And I think not being in those positions, hurt us. And the year before, not this year, but the season before, we had a really good team too, and we lost to Bradshaw by 1. They scored. I got a 2-pointer with 1 second on the clock to beat us. And that year, our starters, out of 10 games before the playoffs, played like 10 quarters of football. We had running clocks in the second half, second quarter, and so not challenging your kids week to week, I think costs you, to be honest with you.
Gotcha.
It's amazing because, and Roger told me that Canapa told me this was going to happen. He said, hey, now you're going to have a hard time filling out your schedule. And so Oakdale, of course, we're playing them. And then Livingston kept us. Antelope tried to back out, but they signed a contract, and so they're going to come down. And then I couldn't find a game for our 4th game because Modesto Christian's not in our league anymore. And so we were playing Turlock. Turlock beat Central last year in the playoffs. So it's not going to hurt us. I hope, unless we lose, her kids get hurt or something, but it's not going to hurt our power rankings because, they're 9-4. They win their league all the time, and they're going to be a playoff team and all that good stuff. So it won't hurt us playing them. And I feel like we're going to get better as long as we don't get beat up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I told Coach Manny Mosa, head coach at Calaveras, said, well, the CIF's only going to look at, strength of schedule and nothing else. Let's call De La Salle. Let's call modern day. Let's just, just
take it easy, Gil.
We go 0-4 in league. In preseason, and then win out your league. You're going to be up there in the rankings.
Yeah. I mean, however that works out, I'll leave it to them. I mean, whoever it is, whether you're ranked first or third or second or whatever, you're going to have to play the best at some point.
At some point, you're going to have to play them no matter what side of the bracket you're on. Yep. And so, and as much as I hate to say it, they got it right in the Division 6 bracket because it all ended up, I think, the top 4 were in the Final 4.
Yes.
So, I mean, I could go eat my hat on that one, even though I still felt the way I felt.
Yeah, no, and I understand how you felt, because after watching the Wheatland, I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
I don't know. But they won their league, so I get it. They have to have a bone thrown to them, but then they got to play better people in the preseason too.
Well, what was interesting about that, I called the game for KVGC Radio, and when I'm going up there to the booth pregame to get stuff set up, I'm talking to a couple of their coaches. They felt slighted. They felt like they going to play Calaveras was like moving down a division, and they're a bigger school, and they were supposed to be up. And so I was like, okay, that seems odd.
Yeah. Well,
I think they were 8-2 or something like that.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think they're 8-2, and that's a long drive from Sonora. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Yes. Of course, it's a long drive from Calaveras, but
yeah,
it was a long. I was like, where are we going?
Yeah. I've taken my daughter to a concert out there in Wheatland, and it's just out in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
And so I feel like, are we there yet? No.
No.
So, Coach, tell me, what's the plan moving forward? I mean, is it just, reload and get ready to do all over again? How long can you see yourself coaching for? Any thoughts of walking off into the sunset, or does the CIF better buckle up because you're not going anywhere anytime soon?
I don't know. I kind of go year to year, and I'm in another year for sure. I find myself at the school going to wrestling matches and basketball games, and seeing the kids and so I still keep in touch with them, and every time I get there, they rope you back in. So I don't anticipate going anywhere anytime soon. There's a few things that we're changing a little bit that I learned from last year, but we're gonna practice the same. A few tweaks here and there, but we're going to do everything the same. And
well, I mean, you're still a young man. Your dad coached until, he was up there in age a little bit. He was still coaching. So theoretically, you still got plenty of years in front of you, right?
Yeah. I don't know how many more I have, but I still enjoy it. And if I didn't, I don't know what I would do.
Right.
And there's sometimes too during this, it's a grind, and it's grind on the wife too. And, get home and I'm tired and I don't want to talk to anybody. And she's like, well, I'm still here, so you got to find that time, you got to manage your time better. And
that's a big time commitment.
It's a huge commitment. Yeah.
That's one of the things that kind of drove me to kind of say, hey, and I'm with you. I was like, oh man, I love these kids. Like, well, maybe when so-and-so graduates after that, by the time he graduates, there's another kid that took his spot. Right. Yep. And then it's just this perpetual, just keeps going every 4-year cycle until, 16 years have gone by and you're like, what am I doing?
Exactly. I tell the kids, man, they make you laugh, they make you cry, and they make you mad.
Yeah.
And not necessarily in that order, but but it's just they just suck you back in. So I don't know how long I'm going to do it, but I enjoy it still, and I like the kids, and I want to see myself get better.
Sure.
I'll never forget in the section title game. It was a 4th and 1, and we had the lead. I forget, or something like that, and I think we did have the lead, and we ran our freeze play. And I audibled, but I kind of got the play in late, and the clock guy that does the countdown was on the other side of the field, and I didn't pay attention, and we got to delay a game, And as soon as the ball was snapped, our fullback was gone for a touchdown. We would have won by 14 instead of having to drive, when at the last second.
Right.
But so I'm like, all right, Coach Nelson, you're in charge of the clock. Don't ever let that happen again. And so he was always in my ear. He's like, okay, count down 5, 4. And I go, we're fine.
Right.
But I didn't ever want that to happen again because there was so much going on at that time of the game. It's such a big game.
Yeah.
I totally lost focus, and I was like, that's why he's in charge of that from here on out.
And it's easy to do. I mean, because you're a lot of times the play you're calling now, you were thinking about a couple of plays ago.
Mm-hmm.
You're calling this play for now, but now you're already thinking about a couple plays from now, the next series, there's so much going on in the play caller's mind.
Yep.
That some things, little things like that can slip.
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes you try and outsmart yourself. And I was like, well, I'm going to run the clock down here, and then we're going to get the first down. I was, trying to milk the clock because we were grinding them. And at that point in time, we were opposing our will on them. And that happened. I'm like,
sometimes
not very good.
Yeah, sometimes I remember when Coach Weatherby was head coach,
mm-hmm.
he'd call play, and I'm like, it's 4th down, Coach. 4th down. And he goes, oh, punt. Right? It's like, because he didn't realize, wait a minute, it's 4th down. No. I didn't know if he wanted to go for it. If so, great. But I'm like, it's 4th down, Coach.
Yeah, and we had a great kicker this year, Manny. I mean, he was first team Max Preps All State, the number 2 kicker in the nation.
I just been reading about him. Yeah,
he was a small school All American.
Where's he going to go play? He's going to go play the next level, right?
He's going to go to Modesto Junior College.
Okay.
The recruiting now starts for seniors or for juniors to be seniors starts now. And he was a soccer guy, came
mm-hmm.
out right before the season started. We talked him into it, and then he was kind of hemming and hawing on whether he's going to come back, whatever. And but anyways, he's a really good, a great kicker, but he's an even better punter. But we only punted 12 times all year, and then it's section game. We went for it, I don't know, 3 times. We were 2 for 3. In the state game, we were 6 for 6. So if it's 6, 4th and a yard, if we can't get a yard, then we don't deserve to win the game.
Right.
So we didn't punt a bunch, but
well, neither did Coach Mosa, regardless of where he was on the field. So I used to give him a hard time for that.
But it's very easy to get caught up, and that's why I finally said, okay, Coach Nelson, you're in charge of this.
Right.
And that way if you trust somebody to do that, then you don't have to worry about it.
It got to the point to pregame, I'd be down on the field talking to some of the coaches, some of the players, and then getting ready to go up to the booth to call the game on the radio. And I'd look at Manny and say, don't do anything dumb. And he'd look at me and say, don't say anything dumb.
We had the Linden game when we played Calaveras in the playoffs, and I had that game, and I'm like, that's an interesting 4th down call, Manny.
Yeah.
And we talked about it, and he's like, man, if I could have that one back. I go, yeah, we all say that, man. Don't worry about it. I understand fully how that could happen. Fully.
Sometimes frustration gets the best of you.
Oh, yeah. And you just get caught up, You're thinking, okay, I got this, and here's my next play, all that good stuff. So
right. Well, Coach, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come down, spend some time talking with our listeners. Any last comments or any other stories you want to share with us before we finish off today?
I think you do a great job. It's really cool. I listen to you every time it's on, and it's really great for the Calaveras kids in the community. And I enjoyed my time over here and all the kids, and and I just have memories of. Calaveras kids are tough.
Yeah.
And, it's fun. It's, seeing my nephew playing now and all that good stuff. So it's fun.
He had a great season, and what an athlete he is with I mean, man, he's a ball hawk on defensively. He knows when to turn it upfield when he's carrying the ball. And so looking forward to seeing him again out there this next season.
Yeah, I think he'll have a good year.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks for being a fan of the show and listening in.
I appreciate it.
We're trying to grow it to where, all of Calaveras, all the mother lobe, all the area, where everyone's kind of listening in, what's going on with the area football.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you extending that olive branch and coming over across county lines and come over here and spend time with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and congratulations again on the phenomenal, great season, and wish you the best of luck moving forward.
Appreciate it very much.
You bet. Well, that's it for us, folks. Once again, a big thank you. The head varsity football coach at Sonora High School, Coach Kirk Clifton, who went 13-2 overall record in 2024 with a Division VI Sac-Joaquin Section Championship banner, a 2024 Division 4A CIF State Championship trophy to add to that Sonora High legacy. Thank you for coming in, sharing your stories with us. Much appreciated. If you're enjoying the podcast, please follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Let's Talk Football with Coach Val, and be sure to share the page with all of your followers and friends. Remember that we will have 2 new episodes drop every month from now until August when the high school football season begins. And then again, we will be right back to every week during the football season. Until next time, we are out.
Let's talk football
With Coach Val.
Let's talk football
With Coach Val.
Let's talk football. Let's talk football
With Coach Val.
Let's talk football
With Coach Val.
Let's talk football
With Coach Val.
Let's talk football.
When I strap on that helmet, man, you ain't my friend. Touchdown, Red Hawk scored again. It's 4th and 1, and everyone says the punt. That's not my style, man, that ain't no fun.
Let's talk football. Let's talk football. Let's talk football.
With Coach Val. Said, hut.